What's up, Switches?
I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Cicero.
And this is the Switching Lanes podcast.
Today's topic:
Life Out There, Homelessness in Memphis.
You know what? I'm centrally located in terms of where I live, and so I get, on and off like maybe Sam Cooper a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, down summer there's this Dollar Tree I frequent. And I noticed there's this one guy, for the last couple of years, he's always been up there. And I went with his sign sitting right there on the corner when you're pulling off the parking lot with a sign that says meal. And sometimes he sits right in front of the Dollar Tree. But his main spot is usually on that little end between Dollar Tree and McDonald's where you're pulling in and out of the driveway.
Right.
And out of the parking lots or whatnot. And I noticed this weekend there was a lady sitting out there. But the lady wasn't with him. But she had her own sign as well. And then I started noticing that on the interstate too. You get off the interstate, off the exit ramp, and there's two people on opposite sides of the street. They both have signs, and I'm like, okay, homelessness is growing so much so to the point where it's starting to look like a competition. Like,
absolutely, people
are working the same corners. Like you usually will see one person dedicated to a certain corner, and I'm not trying to make it a joke or make it funny. It's just like, wow, like.
But you're right, it is growing a lot. I've noticed more faces. I'm noticing more people out there, and I'm also noticing younger faces. Yeah, that's mind blowing for me.
Much younger. It's amazing because I've seen that at the gas stations where a young guy walk up to you or walk past you and ask for money. Or I saw one guy when I was leaving my job, and I was actually glad he didn't approach me because I have a thing about people approaching me when I'm getting in my car. And he was walking up to people, and he was very young, but he was walking up to people asking for money. And I was like, wow, like this is where we are. And it's a trip that they say that panhandling of course is illegal. But what do you do?
Right. Well, to a certain extent panhandling is illegal. You can apply for a permit to panhandle, believe it or not.
That's crazy.
Right. They have their rules and guidelines where you can and cannot be. Right. Well, maybe you panhandle illegally first to get the money. Honestly, I'm not trying to be funny.
To start a business.
There you go. Basically. So you got to come up with the money to go legit, right? It's just, it's.
That seems almost like a catch-22.
Right. If there's a way to panhandle legally, you can go and get a permit. You just have rules and guidelines you have to go by. And unfortunately, you have some people who do it and it's not necessary, meaning you really don't have to be out here panhandling. You could be doing something else. You're fine. You remember the little exposés they used to do? I don't remember the name of the show, but it's like they would film someone panhandling and then follow them walking to this really nice car and follow them driving to this beautiful home and expose them for being a fake fraud, whatever. Remember those?
Yep.
Okay, so we have
videos posted on Facebook like
right, and we have a lot of people like that, and unfortunately they make it so much more difficult for the people who really are out on the streets and that's their only means of eating.
Right. The ones who really are dumpster diving if they can't get a few bucks together to get a meal.
Absolutely. The people who have no other choice. And I think you make it unnecessarily more difficult for those people because now everybody is standoffish. A lot of people, even though we're not supposed to do it, a lot of us wonder, should I give this person my money? I wonder if he really needs it. What is he going to buy with it if I give it to him? You're going to give it or you're not.
Right.
But the thing is, the fact that there are so many people pretending, it really does make some people take a second thought, about giving to people who actually are in need.
But you know what I've always thought about with that, and I don't look at the whole panhandling point, it's illegal for panhandlers to be out here, and I don't even question what they're doing with the money. Like, I've never been one to do that. I've always felt like, one, it's not my business. Two, I'm giving with a heart. I'm giving with that heart to give.
Right. You're going to give it or you're not.
At the end of the day, God is going to bless me for what I've done.
Right.
Or, it's just not even so much as God blessing me for doing it, it blesses my spirit to know that I was able to lend a hand.
Absolutely.
Now, whatever it is that they did with the money is their prerogative. I mean, apparently there was some type of need.
Mm-hmm.
And so that need was met. Or, whatever the case may be. But I try not to question what they're doing with the money. I try not to. I just say a quick prayer for them.
Absolutely.
And I always tell them, you be blessed, you be safe.
Yeah.
And even when I'm, I with my job, we do these monthly team meetings, all team meetings, and they feed us. And at the end of the meetings, we have leftovers, and they'll tell us, take home to your family. Don't leave anything in here, take it with you. And there have been instances where I've taken the food with me, and I'm getting off on that exit off of Sam Cooper, off my normal exit, and I'll see somebody standing there, and I'll give them that food.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually pretty grateful.
Right.
It's not I don't want that, I want money. They're grateful to get that food. Because some people out here really are hungry and really don't know where the next meal is coming from.
Right.
And it's like, I hate to see that. And the most hurtful thing about that, for me, is to see women and veterans on the street like that.
Absolutely. I did some research and I found out that as of 2018, we have approximately 1,226 people homeless on the street. Of that number, 37% are women.
Wow.
37%. And only 6% of beds set aside for homeless people, only 6% of those beds are for women.
Wow.
Right. So we have a huge issue brewing there. And then in the state of Tennessee, we have...
6%.
Right. In the state of Tennessee, we have 700 homeless veterans. Those words do not belong together. They should never...
No, absolutely not.
Ever come together. Homeless veterans.
It has always been my personal opinion, and some people may not agree. I don't see how you would disagree, but some people probably don't agree with this. I just feel like anyone that has served this country, they should not get subpar care, period, in any way, shape, fashion, form. They should never want for anything. Once they go off and risk their lives, and they go off and give their lives, and giving their lives don't mean they died.
Right.
They gave their life
to
protecting this country. So in giving their lives to protect this country, they come back home, if they make it back home. Some of them come back home without limbs. Some of them come back home without their sanity, and that's the biggest thing.
That's the hugest issue.
That they come home without their sanity. They come home without their families, because their families couldn't handle it.
Right.
So to say you don't matter, because that's all you're doing when they end up homeless and you don't get them the care they need, the VA hospital don't treat them the way they should be treated, you're saying we don't care.
Right.
How do you treat somebody like that as a second-class citizen? How do they go and fight over in these third-world countries
for you, and
then come back and you treat them like they're in a third-world country, and they're just out on the street to fend for themselves?
Right. And that's a heartbreaking situation. It really is, to see so many veterans on the street, so many veterans going through something like this. They should never be hungry, should never be on the street. But that's exactly what we're looking at. And a lot of places, unfortunately, are beginning to criminalize homelessness. They're really making it to where it's difficult just to be homeless. And I'm not saying it should be okay. I understand that you want the city to look a certain way, especially when you have visitors and so forth. But when you began to criminalize homelessness and you just basically just decide to kick them all out of the city, it's like you're just going to sweep all your dust, your dirt off your back porch onto somebody else's, instead of you cleaning up the situation properly, addressing the issue as it needed to be addressed. And we have several places right now that are just kicking them out.
Wow. And so you're treating them like they're not even humans.
Not even human.
Like you're treating them like animals. I mean, well, no, I won't even say animals, because some animals get better treatment than humans.
Absolutely. I posted something today. I'm so glad you said that. That said that people are quicker to show empathy toward dogs, or it may have said toward pets, than they are other human beings.
They are.
That's the saddest thing I've read in a really long time, and it's very true.
They are.
Very true. I've seen it where people get angry or defensive or protective over an animal.
More so than a person.
But you'll step right over that man laying in the street, right over that woman laying out in the cold, And it's just,
or you're judging them. You're judging this woman who's out here with her kids.
It's heartbreaking.
You're judging this. You know, you're judging the man who you may not know that he's a veteran, but you're judging this man that's sitting on this park bench that's hungry and talking to himself. And you don't know that person's story. You don't know the person's backstory. One thing that a lot of these guys come back, some of these guys come back from the military, from serving, they come back fully intact physically. But mentally, they are gone.
Right. Mentally, they are not there.
They are gone. And they have to deal with that the best way they know how because they don't have the support.
Right.
And they don't have the resources. Yeah. So they have to deal with it the best way they know how to deal with it. And on top of that, you're kicking them while they're down. Exactly.
And that's a huge issue, the resources. And thankfully, you know, it seems we do have more people trying to step up. We can all do something in small ways. As it adds up, it all matters, right? And I noticed like some businesses, like you said, when you have the company get-togethers or company meetings or leftover food from those events at the workplace, they're donating it to the homeless missions, to the homeless shelters and so forth. And then, gosh, I did not write down his name. I'm going to find it and post it. There's a principal of a high school who realized he had a homeless situation right there in his own school. And to encourage the children to continue school, he put washers and dryers.
Oh, I remember that.
And I was like, oh, yes, I was so proud of him. I have to find that article and post it for you guys. But I was super proud of him because we can all find a way to address that situation in our community. And he put washers and dryers in, it was not the basement, in the athletic room, I think it was.
I think so.
Something like that. And he made sure that the children had access to washers and dryers. And while your clothes are being processed, you have tutors in the other room tutoring the children in different subjects.
Nice.
I said, how amazing. He was really on top of it, and I was really proud of him for that. But we can all help out in different ways. There are different resources out there. I don't feel like we have enough, but you know, that's because the situation is just so huge at this point. But we have places like the Memphis Union Mission and Cavalry Rescue Mission. And CAP Incorporated also has a homeless veterans residence service.
Okay.
So I can get some specifics on that as well, and I'm going to make sure I post all of those places. But also, earlier this year, the Shelby County Commission and the Memphis City Council had a meeting together on April 25th where they announced an $8 million project for a new homeless shelter. Okay. It's going to be right there on Washington where the old vehicle vehicle inspection place was. So I love that they're using that property as opposed to having that abandoned building just sitting there. It's an $8 million project. It's privately funded by donations and so forth. So it's not coming from the taxpayers' money. That's another great thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's going to have a certain number of beds set aside for women as well. And eventually they're going to go back and do another location for women. So I like that they're addressing that issue as well, going back and adding additional space specifically for women.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was the Shelby County Commission and the Memphis City Council. So I'm really glad that they're doing this joint venture to address our homeless situation right here in the city of Memphis, as opposed to criminalizing it like some other locations have been doing recently.
I think that's terrible.
Yeah, it is. It's hurtful.
I recall reading, I was trying to find it while you were speaking, but there are some places around the United States where they have these nonprofit organizations that are building tiny homes.
Yes, and I thought that was a great idea as well.
That's something I would love to see happen here, especially with all of the property that we have around town that's not being used. All these buildings that are not being used, like the old Kmart, the old Super Kmart on Riverdale and Winchester.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, places like that they're tearing down. I mean, they've been abandoned for years. Properties that have been abandoned for years. I would love to see something like that. I wonder how well that will go over, you know, to provide some shelter. I mean, I think that someone being on the street and sleeping on the park bench or sleeping on the bus